Devotions. We're not going to spend as much time answering every questions on devotions this week.
Yay!
Any devotions you did this week that stood out to you?
We just finished Exodus.
Yeah.
We're talking about the tent, tabernacle, and all everything that God was. I mean, I can't even picture my mind how everything is.
You can't picture how they were making it.
Well, yeah, I just couldn't picture.
You can't picture the tabernacle?
I can't picture how they were making it.
How they were making it?
Yeah, I mean, the
Because
table
they're casting,
and all of this stuff.
they're casting silver bases for the tent pegs and all that stuff.
Yeah, with the 3-inch border, projections, I don't know what projection is.
Okay.
Did you look it up?
In my sermon a week or two ago, we talked about they stayed at Mount Sinai for 11 months. During that time, they built the tabernacle, spent a lot of time to do it. They had some skilled workers. Bezalel and Aholiab were the two dudes who were in charge of all the craftsmanship. They probably worked on the Ark of the Covenant. It's like the main thing. But yeah, I mean, the tapestries that were there, all that stuff, it's pretty amazing. And that's the only dwelling place, the only worship place that God commanded. I mean, later on, David wanted to build a temple to God, and God said, well, let your son do it. But the tabernacle, God said, this is what it needs to be like. And think about that, because it's filled with gold, and silver, and bronze. It's filled with really beautiful furniture, very high quality wood, and then the fabrics, the tapestries, and all that. It was all high quality. There are a couple places. There's there, and then when the Israelites were taken in captivity and the temple was destroyed, when they came back to rebuild the temple, they started it, but they didn't finish. And one of the prophets says, have you tried to figure out why you keep harvesting stuff and it's like you never get ahead? It's like you just keep getting further and further behind. Well, maybe it's because you didn't take care of my house first. Take care of my house first, then this other stuff will take care of itself. So those are the two main places where that is there in the Bible. Okay, what else? Yeah.
When we were studying the book of Daniel, kind of went back to this, and there's a story that God told. In Daniel, we were talking about this in Daniel 10, where the archangel Michael comes to him, talks to him. Well, he's still talking to him at the end of 10. When 11 starts, it says, he's telling Daniel why he was there. And it goes, no one supports me against them except Michael, your friend. And in the first year of Darius the Mede, I took my stand to support and protect him against a guardian angel. Okay? Over the weekend, one of my guys was involved in a pretty serious wreck. Going in the far right lane, all of a sudden decided she wanted to make a left-hand turn at 50 miles an hour. He totaled her struck. He hit her. There were some witnesses in other cars. Him and his wife are in the cab and the baby's in the back. A woman comes up and instead of two scrubs, goes in the back of the vehicle, checks the baby, and disappears. Nobody saw this woman come in. There's other witnesses. Nobody saw this woman come in. She never went to the front to check on the two of them. She went in the back, checked the baby, and left. Nobody saw her come, nobody saw her leave.
There you go. I don't have a problem with guardian angels. It's a New Testament thing, you know. And so there you go.
I mean, right there with it in about Michael and this one.
Yeah,
It's there.
yeah. That's good stuff. I like it. I guarantee my guardian angel has had to work overtime in my life.
Mine deserves a vacation.
all the, because when I was growing up, I was in the emergency room once a year. I mean, literally once a year growing up. And so all the things that I've been saved from that I don't even know about, I know about some of them.
I don't even
Okay.
want to talk about.
All right, any more devotion stuff? Okay, serving. Good, being active, being attention, this is awesome. What else? Serving, sharing your faith. Yes.
Funny you should ask. At work, there's one guy that I've been there with forever with this guy. I've been working on this piece at a time. And it worked out that the boss had to take off for some reason. We were working outside, he was on, blah, blah, blah. So we went in to cool down, grab some water. And out of the blue he goes, you believe God created the world? I said, from the first grain of sand to everything that's in it, and every planet in the cosmos. He goes, man, my boy, he goes, I believe in God. My boy don't buy this at all. I said, then ask him how the universe happened. I said, there's faith. There's two types of faith. You have the faith in intelligent design, God, or you have faith that two rocks would float around in space on the exact trajectory. Hit both of them, that's what he believes, the two asteroids are in the Big Bang Theory. And then he goes, yeah, he goes, that can't be because all the planets are round. Well, they're around because they spin and solar winds and that sort of thing. Anyway, I said, yeah, I said, think about it. I said, you tell him that there's can't count the number of solar systems that are in the cosmos. Every one of them has a sun, pretty much. Every one of them is in a geometrical pattern, so they don't go out into space or they don't collapse in on themselves. I said, and if he doesn't get that, just tell him that the moon was 2 to 3 miles closer to the Earth, it would slowly spiral into the Earth and crash. If the moon was 2 to 3 miles away from the Earth, it would slowly move out, and as it slowly moved out, the tides would change until there were no tides, and then the sea, all the sea would be a dead sea, and then life would cease. Now he got a handle on that. So he was off today, so I'm dying to find out. I'm dying to find out Friday how that went.
What is it with the Big Bang Theory? They say that the universe it came down, but it exploded, but there was a spinning part of that. And it's interesting because when you look around our sun, the planets, most of them spin one way, but there's one or two that spins the opposite way. So if you've ever been on a merry-go-round, what happens when you fall off a merry-go-round? If it's going like this, you go that way, right? Well, if a planet, if the universe is spinning and then the planet goes off, how does it all of a sudden just reverse course and start spinning the opposite way? That's a weird thing. But that's good stuff.
With science, though, it's a great piece there is people always ask me, kind of believe it. I said, I believe in the Big Bang. And I said, well, I used to say, well, absolutely. Well, God created. But then just a year ago or so, the scientists came out, a lot of the big names came out and said, you know what it says in the Bible, that the universe is infinite. They said, that's what it is now. They said they can't fit it, because how science is always changing, they never put anything together.
Right.
So they quoted us back before it really is. Where now they said they don't believe in the Big Bang anymore. It's what basically that's the Bible, the universe is infinite.
Okay.
So it's pretty interesting that science keeps catching up
Right.
with the Bible.
Is that in the Bible?
I don't know where. The big man knows over here,
That the universe is infinite?
Yeah. Because it's talking about, it has to do with God, being infinite too, I think. It has to do with talk about that, and they said that's where they,
All right, well, someone will have to do
how the world is, and they said because you can never see, reach, and they talk about trillions and millions of years far away. They don't know how big it is.
Right, I know we don't know how big it is. I don't know, but I don't know if the Bible specifically says that.
I got to read that article when they talked about it. It was about,
Right.
Just personally, I don't want to agree with what you mean, but of course, all the solar systems in the universe are still spinning in orbit. If they weren't, they'd be gone.
My question is, where did the two asteroids come from to cause the
Yeah.
Big Bang?
That's where faith is.
Yeah, because you do, you have faith in something.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was a big bang when all this stuff started, God saved, all this stuff moving around, I'm sure it had noise.
Well, my point is, somebody had to create the asteroid.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Get your own dirt.
Yeah.
Okay, scripture. Anyone memorize any more scripture?
We're ready.
I know he's sick.
He's our guy.
I know, but all these guys are going to come in the last week or two and finish her off. Finish strong.
No, no, I think I might have one.
Oh, you have one maybe?
I think of our brain
Yes, you can.
I memorize it and then it goes away.
You just have to work on it every day.
You need to call them when you're done right away, no matter what
All right.
day it is.
Meet me down here right now.
And leave a voicemail.
I'll text it to you.
Call them.
And then it says,
Just take a
No,
screenshot.
I wouldn't do that.
All right,
all right, what do we got?
but the weapons we fight with are not the weapons of the world. On the contrary, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God. We take captive every thought and make it obedient to Christ.
There we go. Good job. Nice job. All right. All right. I'm cutting out everything else because last week I have to make up for stuff. Make a hug for last week.
They say it's bad, big girls.
Came across an interesting series of books, and I haven't looked at them all yet, but there's a quote from one of them that this person said. It says, boys need to be responsible. Not want, but because it's like about turning boys into men, not the group. Boys need to be responsible. If they are not needed, they don't flourish. Men step down if they're not needed. And because of our society's message that men are no longer needed, many are staying at home. Although most men will not go out of their way to take on challenges and responsibility, this is the very thing they should do if they want to thrive. Did you hear all that? Do you have thoughts about that? Do you agree with that? Disagree with any of that? For boys to become men, they need responsibility. Because if they don't have responsibility, then they just back off and do nothing. If they have responsibility and challenge, then that's when they grow and thrive the most.
I think it's always like this, what causes
My son that all the time.
It causes depression, anxiety, all these, we don't have, that need to, we have, that's what we're raised to be as individuals, to lead, have responsibility. We
Okay.
don't, we get little problems.
What you tell your son that all the time?
I tell him, responsibilities, you're becoming a man by, just as regular chores that are his responsibilities, and if I have to tell you to do it, then that's not the way a man is. A man does it himself without being told. I mean, it's what you do, and that's just what I've been trying to stress that to him in certain areas, You do these things without being told because that's your responsibility to start when you're growing up to be a man. You got, someday there won't be people like me to tell them to do this or that, and you gotta do it.
Okay.
Brush your teeth, I mean, it's the responsibilities. I know it's a little off the course, but
No, not necessarily.
some.
When did you learn responsibility?
I was early.
Yeah.
I was out of my home when I was 15, so, I had responsibilities early. I had a paper route when I was 11, so I was 14 or 15. So
Okay. You learned when you're,
I paid for a lot of my own things, school books, shoes, other things. So I think I learned pretty early.
okay.
We did too. We had a farm,
You had a farm?
and we had a section, in fact, my dad says this word each of the kids had, each of my brothers and sisters, and we could raise whatever we wanted, but that was our school club money.
Nice.
That's good.
Well, you didn't have a clothes, huh?
No, I was identical. I went, which is horrible. Nobody else liked it, but it was the most expensive thing you could sell in Barrington Longest.
Nice.
So you raised your own crop or whatever to make your money that you needed to.
For school supplies.
That's cool.
Awesome.
Okay, when did you learn responsibility?
I was paying rent at 14,
You were what at 14?
paying rent
Paying rent to whom?
for a parent. I paid, I got my first job when I was 14, and I would keep my $10 off my check and give mom the rest of my check. This went all the way through AIT in the military. All through basic training, all through school. I got some money, and finally cut that out.
Yeah.
You were brainwashed, not.
Huh. Wow. Okay.
7 years old.
7? At
Started
what?
piano lessons.
What lessons?
Piano.
Piano lessons?
And so I had to practice on that. I mean, I had to take responsibility for practicing.
Yeah.
That's when I started.
So,
Same year.
They had pianos back then?
Yeah, I only had 3 keys.
Mike, you were so easy to pick on. It's just hard. Mine being the oldest student in the room, that's just a double whammy. Okay?
it's all right, I get even.
Go
I know
to
you-
bags.
And that's why he keeps coming to you. I think that we learn responsibility in different areas of our lives at different times. And most of the time, I think it's when we have to. That's when it tends to happen. So the question is, in the church, and for this group of guys, when do we learn responsibility in here? In 1 Timothy 3:1, Paul's writing to Timothy and says, hey, I need you to appoint leaders in the church. And he says this, here's a trustworthy saying, if anyone sets his heart on being an overseer, he desires a noble task. The word overseer there is the same word for elder. There's 3 words for elder in the Bible, and this is one of them. And he says if someone sets his heart on being an elder in the church, that's a noble task. That's a good thing to set your mind on, good thing to set your heart on. And then he goes on and gives a lot of, so elders is where we are. First thing he does, in 1 Timothy 3 and in Titus 1, Paul writes about the men in the church who are supposed to be leaders, and he talks about their qualities, who they are as men, what sets them apart from the average man in the church. To be elders, it says, first of all, you have to be someone who takes the initiative. An elder must desire the office. There are churches out there who look around and say, man, we really need to get some more elders in here. And so they go and they'll bug, Bryson, come on, man, you need to be an elder. We really need you. We're down to 7. And so we really need someone else, so we're back up to 10. And Bryson says, no, I don't think, no, really, seriously, and week after week until they pull him in. The Bible says, no, someone must desire the office. You don't have to be talked into the position. It says the husband of one wife, and that means scripturally, there are multiple ways to interpret this. I believe you're scripturally married to one woman. There are other people that will take extremes on this, and will say you can only have been married once, and so if you're divorced, you're automatically kicked out. I don't know what they do with guys whose wife died and then they got married, but when you're legalistic about things, you run into all kinds of issues.
Do they have to be married?
Huh? Right, because what if you're single? So there are people who will say, yes, you have to be married, because they're very legalistic in the way they present. The words there in Greek, husband is andros, I believe, and wife is gune. And both those terms are generic. They can either mean man or husband, or they can mean, and the other one can mean wife or woman. just depending on the context, and there's not a lot of context in this situation. So I believe that the best interpretation is a one-woman man. A man who's married to his wife and is not chasing anyone else. I think that you can be an elder and be divorced, but I would want to have the conversation and say, okay, what's going on? Tell me some history. Were you divorced before you were a Christian or after? What are the situations? Did you just get bored with your wife and take off? Did your wife leave you? You know, so I think to say cut and dry, absolutely not, I think is not, doesn't match up with what the rest of the Bible says. But the Bible said, but Paul's talking about the qualities of man. He needs to be tempered or self-controlled, having power over or control over his passions and desires. Temperate and self-controlled. So you can't let your emotions get away with you. And just because you get mad doesn't mean that you can start yelling and throwing stuff at people. Because as an elder of the church, you're going to get mad at people. It's going to happen. And the way you deal with your anger is important. He says they need to be hospitable. In a church setting, back in that day, hospitable meant a lot of times bringing people over to your house, you know, being willing to do that, just, you know, showing hospitality. The way our society is a little bit different today, you know, back in the 50s, this is probably still a much more prevalent thing, but being hospitable means you might bring people to your house, or you might go out and eat with people, or do activities with people, or when you come to church even. When you come to church, you show hospitality not just to the 3 people that you know, you show hospitality toward everybody, you know, even strangers that come in. So hospitable is a characteristic. Able to teach and encourage others by sound doctrine. You need to know what the Bible says. And this is one of the places a lot of churches get in trouble. Is there's a guy that's a really good leader. He may own a very successful business. He's very personable. And they say, wow, we want this guy. I mean, look at how popular he is. And they bring him into an eldership, and he knows nothing about the Bible. I know a church in Scottsdale where this is very the case. Out of the 6 or 7 elders they had, 3 of them had almost no Bible knowledge. But they were in charge of the congregation. They were in charge of leading. And so to be able to teach and encourage others with sound doctrine means you have to know the stuff about the Bible. Above reproach and blameless just means that they have to be people of integrity. Remember that? We talked about that integrity a few weeks ago. Someone that doesn't have charges against them, you know, doesn't have a reputation in the community of being just questionable in his integrity. Not given to much wine. An elder should not be addicted to alcohol. It shouldn't be one of those things that owns you. It shouldn't be your master. Not abusive, but gentle, not quarrelsome. Means doesn't lose his temper quickly. Again, we talked about anger, I think, in here a few weeks ago. It's okay to get angry about some things. It's okay to express your anger in appropriate ways. But if you're just blowing up at people, that's not good. Not a lover of money, not pursuing dishonest gain. Doesn't say that he has to be poor. Doesn't say he can't be rich. But there's a huge difference between being rich and pursuing money. Huge difference there. You can be poor and pursuing money. He's just not good at catching it. You can be rich and have no money issues at all as far as it doesn't own you. But you can't be a lover of money. Must manage his family well. Have obedient, believing children. And this is one of it throws an extra phrase in there. If you can't manage your own family, how are you going to manage to care for God's church? So you have to be able to manage your family well. Because to manage your family well means you have to show love, and you also have to show discipline. Well, in a church, we have to do the exact same thing. We have to show love to people, which everyone's fine with being loved. Oh, you know, just what? But the discipline on things, you know, having a confrontation, sitting down with someone and say, hey, what you're doing is wrong. And doing it in a way that doesn't chase them out of the church, but wants to make them stay here and grow in their walk with God. responsibility in the eldership. Not always fun stuff, but that's the deal. Discipline for children is not enjoyable. For too many parents, disciplining the child for the parents is not enjoyable, so they avoid it. And when they avoid disciplining their kids, then they turn into hellions. Must not be a recent convert. Needs to be someone who's mature in their faith. And there are churches that, they'll get a young person in that's just fired up, ready to go, and stuff like that, and they'll put them into a position of leadership, and then they fall away. And so it needs to be someone that has a proven track record, that they can do things. And so these are qualities, and there are people that will say that an elder has to have every one of these and no issues. In all of these issues, in all these areas, you would go, oh yeah, absolutely not. There are others that say that no one is perfect, and these are qualities of a person. This is the type of person, and that they would have a majority of these things. And I've seen churches go both ways with it. I see it more as the qualities. If we have people in eldership or people who are considering for eldership who there's multiple red flags in here, then we just won't even talk about it. It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing because we take a stand of we just want to watch. We want to watch guys out there. We want to see people who are living these qualities out. And then we want to go to them and say, hey, are you interested in being an elder? After we see this stuff. Other churches will say, hey, why don't you come be an elder for us? Go through an interview process. And then in the interview process, we're going to go, oh wow, there's three three strikes against you, never mind. And I've had a conversation with a guy. It was me. We had different guys that were going to bring on an eldership in Ohio. And I'm the one that said, hey, because this is the system I was in. And so we said, hey, let's come in for an interview to be an elder. The guy's like, oh, cool. So we sat and talked for a while. And then the elders, we talked about it and said, man, I just don't think he's ready. So I had to go to him and say, you know what? Not yet. Not yet. He got mad, he got angry, he left the church, and it was just like, well, there you go.
Yeah.
And it causes division and strife there, but it really proved the point, should have been an elder. Now, if you come, and if you've been invited, and then they tell you no, that's disappointing. You know, that's frustrating. I'm sure you get upset about something like that, absolutely. But if you handle it like a 2-year-old, shouldn't have been asked in the first place. But if you handle it in the right way, if he would have handled that in a different way, probably in the next year or two, or the next 3, we'd probably asked again. And said, man, you know, we see growth and we see maturity in you. The way you handled that situation, you know, a couple of years ago, that was a big deal.
I'm sure that's the case in most elders. In the beginning, they weren't ready to be elders until they were. You know, I mean.
Well, and that's a whole other subject. That's a whole other subject. That's why I think the qualities are the important thing. Is that you look for the character first. And I'll tell you why in just a second. Because no one's ready to be an elder any more than you're ready to get married, any more than you're ready to have kids. You know, it's on-the-job training. That's why the character comes first. So these are the qualities that Paul talks about. But then the thing that churches really struggle with, and I've been in a church of 2,000, and I've been in a church of 100. And I'll tell you what, this is one of the areas that churches struggle is what do elders do? And the reason they struggle with it, because there's nothing really in the Bible about, the thing here, there's not a job description in the Bible, here's what an elder does. I can tell you there are 3 definitions of elder, bishop, presbyteros, and pastor. That's the Greek names, they all mean elder. And in Acts chapter 21, even looked at this forever. I think it's Acts 21, Paul is talking to the elders at Ephesus. And in that passage, all three of the Greek words for elder are used. Presbyteros, bishop, and pastor. And so he's called the same group of people those three titles. Well, pastor means that person who cares for the flock, you know, the caring person.
Pastor.
Pastor, right? Pastor, the shepherd. One of them means a leader, and one of them means kind of a teacher. So there's kind of three definitions of elders: leader, teacher, and shepherd. And so the reason there's not a straight up definition of a church is because you've got guys with certain characters, but totally different personalities. One is a dynamic, driving leader, go for it and get them. One is back here, you know, caring for people, and he's constantly visiting people in the hospital, and he's calling people and saying, hey, I missed you, how's it going? You know, and some of them, and maybe neither one of those are good teachers, but you've got another elder who's a great teacher, he's a great communicator. You know, these two guys are great one-on-one or in a small group, but this guy's good up on stage, you know? And so that because they have different personalities, that's why it's hard to get a job description of an elder. And it's also totally different depending on the personality and the talents of the staff, specifically the senior minister. And it's also totally different depending on the size of the congregation. Because in a small congregation, elders oversee much more, and the bigger the congregation is, the more the staff leads, as a general rule. That's very true. And so we went through and said, okay, and this is something that was done years ago. So I actually haven't even looked at this for a while. But the principles there, based on the definitions of three words, the three Greek words, the elders lead the church by developing and promoting the purpose. Why are we here as a church? The elders are the ones who set that tone. By practicing leadership policies, by overseeing church policies. We run it more as, I'm an elder at the church, I'm one of the elders, and we set up policies, and basically the elders say, okay, here's where we're trying to go, and we all agree on that. Don't care how you get us there, as long as it's biblical and it works. And so there are policies, and policies tend to be things that say, other than you can't do this, you can't do this, and can't do this, knock yourself out. Because if you try and define all the ways, if you try to define the specific ways that it has to be accomplished, it's very limiting. Like if you said you have to have a Sunday morning worship service. Well, what if we live in a place where everybody works on Sunday? According to that policy, we wouldn't be able to switch and have a Saturday night service. And so policies generally just tell you no to these 5 or 6 things. Other than that, you've got freedom to make things happen. And so elders establish those policies. Elders shepherd the church. And the bigger a church gets, the more the elders, there's always a few that are very hands-on in caring. They all should be involved in caring, but their job as shepherding the church is to make sure everyone is cared for. Huge difference between elders caring for every individual and elders making sure every individual is taken care of. Huge difference there. In a church of 2,000, 10 elders can't possibly know everybody's name, let alone take care of all of their needs. Instead, elders at that type of a size of a church, their goal is to make sure that there are things in place so that the small group leaders and the staff and the elders and maybe even visiting teams that go to hospitals, that there's all these things in place to make sure that when there's a need in the congregation, someone's visiting them in the hospital, or someone's going to their house and helping take care of things, or someone's babysitting, or doing marriage counseling, or whatever. So it's more the big picture, making sure those are taken care of. And then elders teach the church. And I'm a huge believer in elders need to teach, either one-on-one, or a small group, or a class of some kind. We need to teach, but we teach in multiple ways. Number one, we teach by having a formal class, small group, or one-on-one, so you teach in those times. Elders also teach by their response to situations. When you see an elder who has someone angry and coming and confronting them or doing some whack-out thing and see the elder's response, everybody else notices that. And go, wow, did you see what happened when that person came and confronted Tom? He went nuts. Well, apparently that's what you're supposed to do, because he's a leader. He's showed us, and so they're in the way they respond to situations. But then also we teach just by our lifestyle. If we have conversations with people and say, yeah, I was reading the Bible yesterday and da-da-da-da-da, people notice that. Or if they find out, for our elders, they have to be tithers. They have to be a minimum giving 10% to the church. Because if nothing else, they need to be an example for the congregation. They need to be an example in worship and serving and all those things. So, in the church, the way as I have studied through the scriptures in the New Testament and seen the churches and seen all the stuff that's in there about elders, it seems to me like the biblical description of elder is a group of men who oversee the overall picture of the church. Making sure that people are taken care of and making sure they're going this direction. So, make sense? Questions?
I was just thinking about the book, Smell Like Sheep,
Mm-hmm.
that it was describing that elders are supposed to find people with certain talents in the church, like you were saying, maybe somebody's good with helping people, or someone's good with talking to people, or giving. Isn't that one of the elder things an elder does, is find people with hidden talents that do different things in the church?
And get them involved using their gifts for God.
You want to get them involved because that keeps them,
And
active in the church.
there's a huge difference between being someone who's an incredible servant and someone who's a leader. And that's across the board in every area of life. Tom may be a great baker, but he should never open up I'm just not saying this for real. Tom may be a great baker, but he should never open a bakery. Because if he opens a bakery, he's going to get caught up in doing payroll, he's going to get caught up in doing taxes and marketing and hiring and firing people, and he should never run a bakery. Because running a bakery is running a business. You can get any fool to run a business. Not a problem. And I really don't mean that. I don't know where that came from. I really don't mean that at all. Because running a business
It's
is
on tape, we got it.
Busted.
I know. And I really didn't mean that, because I don't believe that any fool can run a business at all.
We know you're just kind of.
Yeah, that was just totally off. I so don't believe this. I don't know why that came up.
I'm mad at you.
Out of here!
I'm not worried about your offensiveness. I'm just why those words came out of my mouth.
I'm not worried about.
Yeah. Okay. You don't want to be offended, go next door.
He just went right over from you to me.
I know, you defended me a little bit, it's the attacked you.
Being an elder doesn't mean that you do all the work yourself. Being an elder means you empower and build up other people. That's the whole idea of servant leadership in the Bible. It's not about me doing everything, it's about me helping the body to be as best that they can be.
Equipping.
Yes.
The leader's a server.
Yes.
You're the server first. He would lead.
Yeah. Yep. All right, so Paul talks about, number one, elders. Number two, he talks about another leader in the church, which, again, I'm going to just reemphasize, biblically, I believe that elders are men. I don't see anywhere in the Bible where an elder is a woman. So, not only am I offensive, I'm sexist. So, now,
Well, I can go with, because I see responsibility still works with women, but there's different
we're
responsibilities.
getting to that.
Okay.
That's our next thing.
And then obviously the same thing, like I said before, why we have mental illness, we don't.
Right, right. And, yeah, we're going to deal with that in a second. Remind me. Issues, with the church
Frank's issues.
today. Yeah, we're gonna deal with yours personally. That's why we put that confessional in.
Okay.
Oh, is that what that?
That's what it is. I'm gonna say that to a few people. All right, so Paul talked about a second leadership position in the church. It's diakonos, and it's the word which means servant. If you grew up in the old church, it was deacon. Okay, so deacon. The word in Greek just means a servant, and it's a servant that's in charge of something. I believe the Bible even talks about the deaconess. In Romans, I think it's 16, it talks about Phoebe, who's a deaconess in the church. And there are also some other passages in there that I won't deal with right now. But basically, a deacon is someone who, well, we'll do a job description in a minute. Same thing. Paul has qualities, characteristics of the deacon. They're very similar to the elder. But it's a different position. He says, number one, they need to be worthy of respect. Someone that has good character. Okay? Someone who's sincere. They have a sincere faith. They're not being a hypocrite. They're not deceiving people. Again, not indulging in much wine. Shouldn't be addicted to alcohol or other stuff. Not pursuing dishonest gain. Same thing with the elder. Someone that's, who's got a decent career, is not cheating, lying, stealing to make their money. Keep hold of the deep truths of the faith with a clear conscience. They have to believe the basics, the fundamentals of God's Word. Believe that those things are true. Not malicious talkers. People that don't spread gossip, don't spread slander about other people. Temperate and trustworthy in everything. Again, they've got this self-control issue going on, or self-control going on. Again, husband of one wife, scripturally married to one woman. Must manage his children and his household well, because again, if you can't manage your own family, you're going to struggle to care for God's family. So those are the basic qualities. It's similar to the elders because it comes back to being a person with character and a person who's godly. But there's some differences in there, and you can compare them on your own later. The elders oversee the entire church. The first place we see deacons show up is in Acts chapter 6. What happened is, in the church, when it started, it was mostly Jewish people. And then it added, and thousands of people came to the church. And it started going to not just Jews, but also Gentiles. And what happened was, so you have Jewish people in the church and Gentile people in the church. And one of the things the church did, daily, they passed out food to members of the church, those that had a need. And there was a whole system for how you got put on that list. And it talks about it in other places, in, I think, Timothy and Titus. It talks about that. And so what was happening is, the very first controversy in the church is that it says the Grecian Jews, the people who weren't Jewish, the Grecian Jews, they were not from Jerusalem. The Grecian Jews, their widows were being overlooked in the daily distribution of food. And so they brought the issue to the apostles, and the apostles said, you know what, this is an issue and we need to deal with it, but we need to pay attention to the ministry of the Word of God and prayer. So we want to appoint 7 men from the congregation, and their job is to oversee this specific task. So the elders, the apostles, they oversee the church as a whole, but there's a need that comes up. They appoint 7 men to, in this case it was 7 men, to oversee that specific ministry. And so with that specific ministry, their job was to figure out what the vision is. What are we trying to accomplish with this ministry? Where are we going to get the resources? Who are we going to get to help? What do we do to get everyone on the same page to make sure that this thing gets taken care of? I think that's a template for the ministry lead, and we call them ministry leaders here at the church, because a lot of people don't know the word deacon anymore. And deacon, in a lot of the old churches, a deacon was anyone who served communion. And so what happened in old churches is, you've got a schedule of, say, 20 guys who serve communion. 10 on this week, 10 on that week. So you got 20 deacons, and they used to have a meeting with the leadership of the church. And they'd have 20 deacons and 4 elders and the senior minister. And the senior minister may propose an idea, and then they would vote on it. Well, the deacons could outvote the elders. Beyond the fact that nowhere in the Bible does it talk about voting on anything, there's all kind of messed up stuff there. And they based it on just serving communion because that was the deacon's job. So kind of weird, kind of messed up, just how things, because it was a very post-World War II way that they set up the church. Because democracy was king. And so we wanted to make the churches democratic. And so, not biblical, but it was democratic. So a ministry leader's job is to oversee a specific ministry and to put those people in charge. They still answer to the elders, and there's probably some policies, don't do this, this, or this. Other than that, go for it. So in our church, we have different ministry leaders. Elaine Heinemann does communion. So she goes and gets the grape juice and the bread. She makes sure that that stuff is here. That every Sunday morning, it's set up in trays, it's over here. That there are people that can serve the trays and pick them up and then clean up. I have no idea. I have no idea how any of that works.
Just coffee and cleans everything.
Yeah, but, you know, and I don't care to know. I want to know that when we get up and get done praying for communion, there's communion coming. Other than that, I don't care. I don't care. And there's all kinds of ministries like that in the church. And the goal is that you pull people into positions where they have gifts and talents, abilities. But the whole goal of, and here's the separation. In the church, you have incredibly dedicated, strong volunteers. And they are fabulous at what they do. And then you have ministry leaders. And the huge difference between a ministry leader may spend less hours at the church. But the difference with the ministry leader is they don't do all the work themselves. They get other people involved in doing the work. That's a huge difference. And so that's why being a volunteer in a church, we don't necessarily care if you're a Christian for a whole lot of positions at the church. You know? Now, any teaching position, we background check anyone that works with children, but you don't have to be a Christian to be a greeter. As a matter of fact, we'd love it if you weren't. If you're a great, friendly person and you want to be a greeter, and that's something that got you to church every week because you had a position where you had to fill that, oh, we'd love that. But we're not going to let you teach. We're not going to let you teach anything biblical. We might let you teach how to be a great greeter, but you can't teach any Bible stuff. Because you don't know, you're not even a Christian. until you make that step, then we can talk about the other positions. So, in our church, the way it's set up, senior minister is an elder, elders oversee the whole thing. We find ministry leaders to oversee specific ministries. Their job is to make sure it gets done and to involve other people. So, questions about ministry leader, deacon, deaconess?
You mentioned Elaine, which could be considered a deaconette.
Deaconess.
Deaconess?
Deaconess.
I didn't know if there was such a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Romans 16, Phoebe was a deaconess.
Okay. Cool.
So, you see what this also does?
She can only have one wife.
Well, it's funny because the language in your NIV doesn't match up with the Greek exactly. There's an assumption in there. They kind of throw the word man in there in part of the description of deacon. But in the original language, it just says a deacon needs to do this and this and this. But it doesn't say a man must be a deacon that does this.
That's
So-
one of the differences between elders and deacons then.
Right, and that's a huge one. And that policy, and that, which I think is biblical, but it makes a lot of sense. Because the Bible is very big about men being the leaders in two areas. In the family and in the church. When a man is a leader of the family, good things happen. When a man is a leader of the church, good things happen. The Bible, so it also gives and it also gives women leadership roles in the church. And there's no doubt that we have talented women in the church. And they should be in leadership positions because God has gifted them with some great abilities. And they can lead and go out and do some fabulous stuff for the kingdom of God. And they report to the elders. Now, if the elders are smart, they'll give them a lot of reign, but also the elders have responsibility for the doctrine of the church. So anything that's taught, whether it's by action or words, the elders are held accountable for that. We get judged harsher when it comes the end time because of our position. And if we let stuff go on, we're accountable for that. So it gives us the leadership, and it gives those women in leadership, it gives them leadership too, plus accountability. And in the family and the church, you see that. Because you see women in leadership positions throughout the Bible. You see it throughout. Phoebe was a deaconess. Philip had 4 daughters who were prophetesses. In the New Testament, they were prophetesses. There's some Old Testament prophetesses like Miriam and Huldah, Huldah.
Hagar?
Who?
Hagar?
Hagar? I don't know.
What was the judge?
Deborah. Deborah was a judge. So she was in charge of the nation. She oversaw the nation. So so she was in a political office. So apparently we're okay biblically with a woman being president for us today. There's no biblical issues with that.
Seen recently, stories about the minister, pastor, what they call them, the females that are prevalent nowadays in
Mhm.
different churches. They were talking about that, and so how's that playing? I said that they didn't think that was right. The only thing that, being, new back in, saying all this perfection, don't know, right? But if they're leading you in the right direction and following the word, but is
it being done in the right way?
Yeah.
And I would have a problem. I wouldn't have a problem with a woman teaching.
Yeah.
I would not have a problem with a woman teaching men. I would have a problem with a woman being the senior minister of a church.
Yeah.
Because when you read in...
That's what brought it, because there was, I was reading something recently about what your actually discussion is, and they're saying what you're saying.
Mhm.
And that's, but, the only other thing I can say is that at least somebody's doing it, I guess.
Does it say in the
Well-
Bible that they cannot be a minister?
Well, First Timothy 5:17. Okay, listen to the job description. The elder, so he's an elder, who directs the affairs of the church, especially those whose work is preaching and teaching. So that's where, number one, I get my job description. I'm this elder, I'm this type of an elder. The one who directs the affairs of the church, that's my life. Preaching, teaching, that's the rest of my life. Okay? They're saying, 1 Timothy 5:17 says, that's an elder's responsibility. So that's why, number one, I see myself as an elder. Number two, it's why I see that a woman shouldn't be the senior pastor of a church. Now, she might be a great teacher, but she's got to come under the headship of elders. And that's the way I would say she can't be the leader. There's got to be elders over her. What's her face? I've never listened to her.
Joyce Meyer.
Yeah. Joyce Myers is the senior pastor of a church. I don't agree with that. And that's why I've never listened to her. I've heard a lot of people are being very encouraged and strengthened by her teaching. But if she's not following biblical with that, what other things is she just a little bit off on? And that's why I've never listened to her to see, but that would be an issue that I would have. Now, if she comes under the authority of the elders, I don't think she does. I think she is the senior minister, and I think she's in charge.
I think that might have been one of the things we were talking about.
Yeah.
So much, and that's one of the reasons why, a year ago I came and sat down with you, because not that I read, but forget half stuff, and I haven't read enough to go through and understand.
Right.
But at the same time, I knew when I saw other churches and what they were doing, I'm like, nope, that doesn't seem right, it doesn't fit.
Right.
Right, so when they're saying, you know, well, we're gonna relax this and marry, you know,
Right.
two same sexes, or, and that's, you know, well, it's okay to have an abortion, and I'm like, well, we can't, we have to talk about that, as for real, but we have to help people. So at the same time, we can accept it and love them, but at the same time, you can't say we
Condone that.
condone it,
Right,
right?
right.
And that's why I talked to you about that, because like, you know, if you wanna, I want somebody who says we follow the Bible and goes through it, because, you know, every time, you know, went to Bible study with the guys, and then some of the things that you say, I keeping little pieces out that I never heard that with you.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I said like weeks ago when you said, you know, Adam was hiding from God. That was still, to me, I still think about it, because how I always stayed away for so long was because that's what I was doing. I realized, man, that's, if more people would have taught that, we'd come back. Right? So it's like, it's crazy.
Right. Okay, Mike?
I'm not sure, I mean, I can see both sides. I'm not so sure that 517 really says that women can't be, because it just says the elders who direct the affairs of the church well are worthy of double honor, especially those whose work is preaching and teaching.
Okay.
It doesn't say necessarily that that has to be men.
Who are elders though?
You have to write the description of elder, not that passage. So, to read that.
Yeah, but what?
This is the elder's responsibility. Okay, we agree this is the elder's responsibility,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Directing affairs of the church. So whoever the elders are, no, I wouldn't use that to prove that elders are men. I'm saying that this proves that a senior pastor is an elder.
oh, yeah, yeah.
Now, in other places, I would absolutely, you know, 1 Timothy 3.
Back to first.
Yeah, 1 Timothy 3 says an elder are to be men worthy of, if anyone sets his heart on being an overseer, he desires a noble task. And every thing in there is masculine. In all the phrases in 1 Timothy 3, it's all masculine talking about the elder.
Is that first
But if you look at 1 Tim 3:12, it's masculine as far as deacons are concerned. So the same argument could be made, the deacons have to be men. A deacon must be faithful to his wife and manage his children in his household.
Right, but in verse 8, like deacons likewise are to be
Worthy of respect.
worthy of respect. Men is not in there. In the original, in Greek, men is not in there. Deacons are likewise to be worthy of respect. And in verse 11, it says in the same way, the word there is not their wives, the word there is gune. Gune can either mean wife or women. And so there, it can be in the same way the women are to be women worthy of respect, not malicious talkers, temperate, and trustworthy. So there's two places in there where it opens the door to women being in those positions.
It was first written by Jews, so it's in Hebrew.
Greek.
I mean, first written, or was it?
It was written, yeah, the New Testament was written in Greek.
Version from the beginning, from.
The New Testament,
Oh, okay.
all in Greek.
Okay, is that, I would just.
There's some Aramaic.
Yeah, because it was just from a rabbi talking about some words are similar, but then there's items on it that changes, and that's what distinguishes the two and what gets lost in translation. On saying who is, you know, man or woman, and so, and that's why I was wondering, because, I mean.
Well,
they
in
were
Greek, gune and andros are totally different.
Yeah, no, I get that, but I'm just saying that the
but-
other way was, they would sound somewhat similar sometimes, but it's the way it was written and
Yeah.
how they spoke it.
In the Hebrew.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was just interesting on all these different things you're learning that, you know, going back on why people misinterpret things. So,
Okay, we got it real quick. Everett?
Everett quick and say something.
No way.
It's 8 o'clock, I thought the after.
Okay. All right, well, let me go back to this then. So I gave you all this stuff about elders, I gave you all this stuff about ministry leaders. And I want to go back to my opening statement. Here's a trustworthy saying, if anyone says this already an overseer, he desires a noble task. I go back to the book that I started, that boys need to be responsible. If they're not needed, they don't flourish. And men step down if they're not needed. And in the church general in the United States, especially in the United States, I think a lot of men have taken back seats. I think a lot of men have just stepped back and said, you know what, I'm good. And I don't know which came first, it doesn't really matter. If women just started taking over more positions, or if men stepped back and so women had to fill the void. I don't know which way it happened, I don't really care. I know that go to the average church and it's 60-40. 60% women, 40% men. And
You mean in leadership?
no, in churches.
Oh.
Go to average congregations, it's about 60-40 in any church. And men are not pursuing, they don't have their heart set on being leaders in the church. Maybe not even an elder, but they don't have their heart set on something like that. And because the men in the church aren't stepping up to take leadership, it would take one more step back to where did you learn responsibility? Because men are not taking responsibility for what's happening in the church, women are filling the positions. Women are filling the void. Or it's not being done.
It's the way the world is working towards right now.
But why?
Just because the rest of the world does that doesn't give us a break in the church. And it doesn't give us a break in our specific church. I don't care what the rest of the world does. That's the reason we're doing this summer. Is because I'm calling the men in the church and saying, number one, are you even going to show up? And the men in the church, these are the guys that are showing up every week. Well, number two, thrilled that you're showing up, you get a participation trophy at the end of the thing. Okay? That's what you'll get. But if we want something more for this church, then men in the church, even if you don't have the title of leader in one of these areas, you can be living it out. But at some point in here, you've got to say, you know what? This is my church. I care about this church. And I'm going to do something to make sure that it goes the way God wants it to. That's the point of this whole thing. God, thank you for today. Thank you for the guys that are here. And God, I pray that you'll raise up men in this country who can be leaders in the churches, and that you'll raise up men in our church who will do the same. We thank you for the ways that you've blessed us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, guys.